supposed to be roasting things, but Roman and I are roasting each other way of behaving at Connect, scheduling
This is
at Connect.
true. If you haven't jumped into a workflow roast yet, this is it. Kelly and I are bantering. We're going back and forth. We have the pleasure of doing this live on the Accounting Flow podcast twice a month. We go live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on X, on all the platforms, on YouTube, and we roast workflows. And so a lot of you submit uh, questions as it relates to firm building, and we get the chance to roast them. I will say we are pretty nice, right, Kelly?
Yeah, we're pretty nice. We're not too roasty. I actually did a roast for a friend for her group, and it was discovery form roast. And she warned them that I was going to be harsh, but I'm actually sweet as pie.
That is true. You are quite sweet. So the format for today, we've got a couple of submissions that we will start to go through. If you are in the chat, we're going to have a conversation. I see Charlene's listening in from the UK here. Pop your questions over about what you're working with in your firm, what things you want to have deconstructed and to have conversations about. And so, would love to have some live banter on that. We have the wonderful Rachel in the background stack ranking some of these questions that come in. So really excited to get this conversation going. We've got about 28 and a half minutes left. So Kelly, do you want to do a quick intro of yourself before we hop into a workflow roast?
I'm Kelly Parks of Pop Waters Cloud Accounting, and I want accounting professional to love cloud accounting as much as I do. How's that?
That's perfect. Well, not everybody knows who you are. You're very visible. You spend a lot of time helping other accounting professionals do their jobs really well. But good to get that in. I'm Roman Villard, founder of Full Send Finance. Run about a 12-person firm here in Boulder, Colorado, and love talking about stuff like this and just opening dialogue to create better firms because that's helpful for everybody. So, shall we jump in, Kelly?
Let's do it. And if we get past this first question, I'll be astounded. This is a
This is
question
true.
for every bookkeeper and tax preparer on the planet, I think.
And here we go. So the first submission was, I'm wondering if anyone's willing to share how they can tell a client kindly and professionally that their procrastination doesn't constitute an emergency for me. I would appreciate any genuine feedback. Thanks in advance.
Yeah. Go ahead, Roman. Let's hear what you've got.
Fire them. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like we have deadlines. We can only do so much to proactively communicate with our clients through the systems that we have access to. We shouldn't be breaking our communication workflow for somebody else's lack of attention to the things we've already communicated to them. So I'm already kind of assuming that we've gone through the rhythms here of proactively communicating what we need from them, why we need it, and then what's going to happen afterwards. And so if they're still just delaying, and on October 14th, the day before the deadline, they're getting you all their documents, I'm like, "Yo, let's get it done." That ain't my problem. How you kindly and professionally address that, maybe Kelly is more suited to provide a professional response here.
Well, we know I often lack professionalism, Roman. So I want to go back to you said, I'm assuming that we're all letting the client know the things up front. I think a lot of people don't. So I think it starts with, and I'm doing a session at Intuit Connect on this. That is a client welcome guide that sets the expectations clearly, tells them what the technology that we're going to use is, including financial sense. They not only get it in my client welcome guide, but they get an intro email that walks them through how to use it, how to get into the portal, and there's a video there. It teaches them how to use Dext, which is a document management program. So getting them comfortable and explaining it in the beginning, but I also issue a time frame, not
Mm,
just a deadline. So I have somebody, I'm doing a remediation file, and I just finished everything, but we need to get her completely caught up to the end of October. So I told her that first of all, I'm away until November 6th because we have an accounting conference up here in Toronto coming up, hot on the heels of Connect. And so I said, I'm going to be away. I advised her. And then I said, I will finish your file 5 days after I get the bank statement from you based on that being after the 5th. So basically, it amounted to the 10th. She doesn't get it to me till the 8th. So use a not just a deadline, use a time frame. And so it's also built into my client guide that reports will go out, X amount of days after things have been received. So don't just give them the actual date, give them the days that you need to complete the work. I think makes a really big difference.
Yeah.
But then I'm with
And
you. So I have two thoughts on this. First of all, I give them some grace, especially if they're going through something. I give them some grace. But if this is a consistent client that this is what's happening, and I love that this person said it doesn't constitute an emergency for me. I mean, that's the way to think about it. It's not your problem. They're not children, and you didn't create the problem. So I like that she's owning that this isn't her problem. But now I have no idea where I was going with that. I give them some grace, but if they're really not going through something, and if this is consistent, um, then I tried this. It came from a friend of mine, Mike, and that is we went with a reward system for a client.
mm,
So if he got his stuff in, I think you've heard this from me before, right? If he got his stuff in a timely manner, he got he would get back X amount. So the engagement was for this amount. But instead of punishing him, because some people are like, okay, well, I will add to the bill for delays. But you could also the next year credit them or do some sort of reward system. And then, like you said, if it is impacting you and your team, you're going to have to do a graceful exit.
yep. And there are
And I don't
really
like,
good
and
ways.
I don't like the term firing either. I love the term rehoming.
Rehoming is the nice way to say it, but internally, I would say we're firing them. And why I say that is because we tell our team, we tell our clients in an engagement letter, here are our values. We hire and we fire based on these values. And a big part of that for us, we have a value of good neighbor. We want to be a good neighbor to those around us, to our clients, to our team, to the community, to our vendors. And a big part of that's communication. So, Kelly, to your point, you're talking about this duality of accountability where if your client gets things in on time, they will be rewarded. And you commit to get things done on behalf of your client within a certain time frame afterwards. Like I love that. However, when you think about having to potentially rehome a client, Raquel asked the question, have you ever had to let a client go because of consistent procrastination? Um, we have, and
Yeah.
it's not fun. That said, in that particular instance, what often happens is that there becomes some tension within things that are beyond just procrastination. And so I think for us, it's an evaluation of are we rowing the same direction? Like, are we even the right fit for you? And to Kelly's point, the way in which we handled that was saying, hey, based on your current needs and how you need to get this work done in order to move forward as a business, we're not going to be the best positioned provider for you. Here are three introductions to other firms, if you're open to them, that we would love to make. Now, that also came with the outreach to the other firms saying, hey, here's our experience. We think that your processes may be better to handle this. And then handing over like a really warm lead to somebody else in a natural way.
Yeah. Yeah. A warm lead is great. Some so and you said it. The phrasing, you said it in a different way, but it's always we can't bring value to your business. We can't bring value to your business. As long as that messaging is going out while they're on their way out the door, or even if you want to get them to comply better, we can't bring value to your business if you don't get us receipts by the first week of the month, or
Yeah.
documents. So, but then some people are going to go out the door. And I did say rehoming, but some clients I've had a few that I would have hesitated um, to rehome to anybody that I knew.
Yeah.
And the phrasing on that is my friends in the accounting industry operate the same way that I do. So I'm sorry. No, I don't know anybody who can bring value to your business. Value to your
Uh,
business.
Value to the business is key because I was gonna say you could rehome them to our friends that are advertising low cost services in football games. So that's an option there, but that's also knowing like that's bottom of the barrel service there. There's not a value equation to these, really productized $300 returns. So we'll leave that
Yeah.
aside. But let's hit on another question here. I think we got Shannon, and we got your question. Yes, we want to help find a new home for any clients that we're looking to offload. Andrew asked the question: how do you balance standardizing workflows and customizing for specific client recurring issues? I've got some ideas.
Yeah, go ahead. You said you've got some ideas. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, what's interesting, like within the world of advisory, a lot of like what we do is very custom. Like the reporting is custom, the workflow is custom, but it all comes from a very standardized issue set and or services set. And so we've got a big product map. Within that product map, we have categories or levels of complexity or levers within that service that helps us understand like what are the issues that would come up with this. The way that we categorize it, instead of like easy, medium, hard, we say green, blue, and black diamond, like you're skiing on the difficulty of slope rating. And so for a black diamond client, we're like, okay, this is going to be really challenging. There may be things outside of our current processes that we need to be attuned to. And so what we try to do as soon as we identify something that happens, we're baking that into our workflow. Hey, we need to rip this report down, we need to digest it, and then we need to um, do some analysis on it. That then gets baked into the workflow. We then identify, is there a way for us to do this in a more efficient manner? Is there a way to do this, utilizing different team members? Like what's the best way to tackle that? And then baking it in. The only case that we would do that is if we still believe it's within the current scope with that client. And so if we're like AR, there's a weird AR problem, then we'll bake it in if we're engaged to do that. If it's like, hey, we need this three-way model, scenario-based analysis, then it's an out of scope and or change order conversation with the client. I'll pause there, Kelly. I know you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I do. And I'm looking at this from two ways. So at first I thought it was how do you have standardized workflows, but then have clients that need all kinds of different things. But maybe it comes back, but it said recurring issues. But so first off, solidify your tech stack. So no matter how odd the work may get, as long as your tech stack and the basis of how you get work done is standardized. So, and also build standard workflows that then can be customized perhaps by a niche and then by a client. So it all starts with this is what we do here and this is how we do it because that's the only way we can bring value to our clients. Not that we're being bossy, but it's called bossy nice or clear as kind. Bossy nice is me, clear as kind is Brene Brown. But as long as you're starting with standards, but if it is recurring issues out of scope with the client specifically, a little bit like you do. You and I take a slightly different approach, but I have what's called menu pricing. So as soon as an international payment comes, a bill comes in to Dext from an international vendor, that actually we start a workflow that issues a bill and pulls it off their PAD, their pre-authorized payment, so that that work that is out of scope is being managed, but the client already knows how much it is. You've done a similar thing. Clients know how much the extra work is, getting out ahead of how much the extra work is. But it's all going to come back to at least starting with a standard tech stack, starting with standard how you do it. And then you can customize it by clients. I don't have a single client ever that I have done the same work for. And I've
Yeah.
never had a client that hasn't had odd stuff come up. Now, if consistency, really weird stuff is coming up, they'd be rescoped, or I'd have to evaluate if we're still bringing value to them because are we chasing
Yeah.
around stuff at the last minute because they need these jobs done weirdly?
And I think
Weirdly is a word.
that's predicated upon your pricing model too, right? So when you say if there's
Mhm.
consistently things out of scope, like in a value-based pricing model, that could happen quite frequently because you don't have that a la carte type model. So it's
Yes.
easy in that menu-based pricing to say, "Oh, you opted into this, we're going to charge you for this rate." it's already outlined in our terms of engagement. Here's what the
Right,
prices are. You just add it on. In value based, it's a little bit more difficult. So you have to like set your own
right.
framework on when should we approach the client with this? When should we bill out of scope hourly for that? And for us, we tend to look at that through the lens of like, what is a distinct project or requires a distinct amount of time set aside outside of our normal workflow that would then trigger us to bill extra for that.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that a bit. Value pricing is not something that we do. We do fixed free fee, which now the princess word for it is subscription. But there is menu pricing outside of that. I can't. I have
Yeah,
never had an interest in six. I have like packages that give an idea. You do it really well. This is going to cost somewhere around this. With a little sim. This is good, or this is how much our average client is paying for these services. But I am not going to have packages because every client is so different. But value pricing is
yeah.
working for lots of those firms. But I have weird clients.
Yeah, and we all have weird clients, right? I mean, it's just the
Yeah.
nature of the business. Like, you think they're great when they're coming in, you're like, "Cool, they're gonna pay our rates," and then they come in, and you're like, "What happened?" Um, we are
I,
halfway
I
through already.
I have
Ho ho
to give another thought on this because I think it's key. When I first take a client on, it's a 3-month engagement, and then it can
Smart.
be rescoped, and then possibly it's a 6-month engagement. And maybe there's going to be 3 more months. I don't say this is it for the year. It is 3 months, and then possibly another 3 months, and then that's what we're doing.
That is a really wise way to approach it, and I think that kinda hits on Charlene's question here up at the top of Q&A. She asked, "How do you deal with a client who keeps asking for a level of work they are unwilling to pay for?" And I think there's a few issues with that because if you're clearly communicative upfront of what the rates are and how and why, what
Yeah.
impacts pricing, when that additional work comes in, they should already be aware of what that's going to cost them. Yet, if they're unwilling to pay for it, that presents another issue of are they the right client or not. But to Kelly's point, you can kind of solve this really easily by saying, we have a 3-month relationship for us to like really get you up to speed and onboard and get these things sorted out, and then we're going to revisit what scope and price looks like. And so by just putting in that one inflection point, it allows you to immediately kind of reset that relationship and then have the discussion around what are you willing to pay for, and if you're not, we're going to drill down our services to what makes the most sense relative to your budget if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I think another thing you can do in addition to my 3 month, I do a re-engagement survey. So when we go
Mm,
through the re-engagement process, which is, a year from whatever we've decided on or fiscal year end, whatever. So I send out a survey, and that has caught a lot of out of scope things because because I asked them what didn't go well. I had a client say she didn't think we were getting stuff to her in a timely manner. Brought her
mm,
back to the engagement letter. So Charlene, a good engagement letter is going to cover a lot of this, whether you use a quote for it or an action, whatever you're doing. List out what you're doing for them. But then in that re-engagement process, she thought we weren't getting stuff in a timely manner. I'm going somewhere with this. Went back to the engagement letter. So 9 months out of 10, we were done by the 10th of the month. The engagement letter actually said the 15th. She thought we were lagging. And when I showed her that, we increased the price because she actually wanted it on the 10th. And so it gave me an opportunity to address a problem that I didn't see coming. She wasn't
yeah.
leaving me, but I never would have known if I didn't have that. But it also gives an opportunity for all the good things that you've done. But it totally addressed that what she thought was a slight delay, and we re-engaged at a higher level. So then she was willing to pay for the other work. Charlene, if she isn't, or if the client isn't going to budge on this, and this is hard. Getting rid of clients is really hard. I don't say this lightly, but you can't keep them. You just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're not going to budge on this.
Yeah, that's good. So Kimberly would like some elaboration on the reward program that you mentioned. Like, what are some examples of rewards that you give them? Does that help keeping them on track to provide information?
Yeah. So in this case, we had, and it was a really cool. There was a music producer, and it was with another firm that I do work for, and we adored him. We didn't really want him to go anywhere, but he was getting so far behind that it was causing us problems, and we weren't giving him what he needed, and his business was growing like crazy. And so Mike simply said to him, uh, if you don't get us this stuff, we can either send you off to somebody who doesn't mind, but you're not going to get any reporting here, which he wanted, or but he was holding up all of our systems, and all of those lags or delays. But so what we did was said, if you get everything to us in this time frame next year, every month, we're going to reduce your bill by X amount. But right now, you're looking at a higher bill. So we went into the year with a higher engagement for the PETA factor, and then we came out with it as a reward credit for him.
That's
I
awesome.
also used to do the gold star thing. So I would send off the gold star and call them the client of the month. Now, they didn't know my other clients. They had no idea if I was sending off gold stars for the other clients of the month. But I do have notes that go out thanking them for their engagement in their own
Yeah.
books, or saying, I love the words, I appreciate you, not
Mm,
necessarily I appreciate what you did, but
yeah.
it's just a slight twist on the language. Rewards can be in the form of flattery as well. And the clients can get that confetti burst when they finish client tasks in financial sense. How about that fun? So
That is
um,
rewarding.
it is rewarding. So some of my clients also, if they are doing something really interesting in their business, may not relate to me, but I have a client who is doing some really interesting succession stuff, but they're trying to nail down the business model. So I gave them the book Traction
Yeah.
to reward them for the fact that they are finally, because I do some advisory work. We were talking about this succession planning for quite a while. They're putting it into action. And so now I gave them, they're not going to implement EOS, but there's such great ideas in there. Rewards can be books too. They don't have to be monetary, or
So
gift baskets.
yeah, totally agree. I got a letter the other day, or like a little package, just thanking me for referring somebody to this other firm, and I was blown away. I felt so special, and it's just like it's a small token, but it's something that meant a lot to me. So like the flattery, the small tokens of appreciation, like a little gift card here and there, like those are great.
Yep.
All right, we got about 8 minutes left here. Jen Daniels had a wonderful question in the chat here. She asked broadly about what her workflow must-haves. We're going to drill a little bit deeper here on her comment. So she's looking for recommendations on consolidating multiple email inboxes. I've got some thoughts on that. I know you do too. Do you use multiple inboxes, Kelly?
I no, I have, if it's not my personal email, if it's not like dog photos, which mostly isn't emails anyways, that's WhatsApp or text messages. Shout outs for wine. My emails are basically funneled into, they're all forwarded into one place. I'm a big
Hmm.
user of labels and folders and things, but they all
Yeah.
come into one place. I don't have multiple inboxes that I'm checking, if that's what they mean.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, Jen, maybe you can pop into the chat what your circumstance looks like. I'm assuming that
Mhm.
you're talking about maybe group inboxes or aliases or things of that nature. We do a lot of that at our firm. So each of our
Mhm.
client has an email alias that we utilize for logins and security and stuff like that. And then we also have like with our app partners, with our vendors, we might have like vendor at firm.com, and that's an inbox that we have set up for that particular app. Managing them is really interesting. So there are a few ways to do this really well. Um, we utilize Google Groups a lot. We're a Google firm, we're not a Microsoft firm, and so you can attribute permissions to the inbox based on individuals within your firm. So only the right people have access to the communication in that group. That's one way to handle it. You could also invite clients into that group as well, external parties in a secure manner, which I like. Another way to do this is looking at external tools like Front or
Right.
Missive as like holistic communication tools that I think are really helpful when you're juggling tons of inboxes. You need to get to the right person. You have chat functionality with your team within these tools that are aggregating texts, aggregating emails, aggregating other forms of communication. So check those out. And I think there's a few ways to do that. Jen says, I monitor inboxes for, monitoring inboxes for some clients as part of
Uh,
services. That's hard.
that's hard. Um, what can I can speak to that really quickly though. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I did, because I only ever had one client that I managed AR and AP in email for them. And so I had signatures. One signature, this is a little off topic, but one signature was me as the AR person, and one signature was me as the A accounts payable person. And so any correspondent and AP and AR at that company, and having those signatures took away a lot of any typing or who this is or any complexity around that.
Yeah.
But I don't have any help on that one, because I've only ever had one client that I did that for, and they better be
Yeah.
big enough. Like that is not a $500 engagement. I wouldn't think.
No, no, that should be a
No.
much larger priced engagement
Yeah.
to be that active in a system,
Yeah.
particularly if you're managing AR and AP. Like you don't want to be
Yeah.
the middle person that's lagging in communication on that. So it's constant management. One of the things that we've talked about our team in relation to managing client inboxes is similar to when we set up a new client. We may have bank rules in QBO that we like. That's what we do for every client. For an inbox, we want to again, it's custom but set up a similar rule set of email forwarding for correct notification to the right people based on vendors or based on customers, things like that. It's to the best that you can try to get the email into like your typical rhythm of email as easily as possible would be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough one.
We we don't have a lot of time left. I wish this was an hour. Let's see here. What other financial sense integrations do you use, Kelly?
Okay, so I'm using Adobe Signature now. I just recently implemented that. I am using Google Drive, which nothing is really happening yet, but it is setting it up for me, but it's not pushing things through. So I'm excited about that one. I am using the QBO integration. I have Zapier set up. So Typeform, my file review, because sometimes I just do file reviews. File review, type form. They complete the form, which is behind a paywall, all of the things, answer the questions, creates and finds a contact in financial sense, starts my file review workflow. Typeform has sent them an email telling them how to use Financial Sense. I think I'm on a 15-second delay. I can't remember what it is. The client goes directly into Financial Sense following the instructions, and all of the list of their tasks is sitting there. So that's a good one for me, because I do quite a few file reviews. My discovery form works in a similar manner. The file review one is the really like I really like. So that's Zapier setting up workflows. You?
Yeah, so we use I was gonna say, Zapier is probably, like, one of the best things that we've connected to Financial Sense because it just allows for so much efficiency, particularly in the client onboarding process. So very similar to you in that as soon as the client signs, we utilize Ignition as our proposal and billing software. As soon as they sign, all of that information to create a new client, the client contact info, and then the onboarding template is populated um within Financial Sense, like that's a really major improvement to us. We also use the API. So we use the API for sending information out for our internal analysis purposes, which has been really nice and flexible for us to do that. I still wish there's a few more features on that API, but those are the two
Abdullah,
primary
are
tools
you
we use.
listening?
Now,
Is
Abdullah
Abdullah
is in a
listening?
different session. He's working on the API right now. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. We also have QBO integrated with a number of our clients for recats. Recats, it's so much simpler than
Yeah.
sending over that shared Google sheet or what have you. So really like that functionality within the client dashboard. Yeah, and with that, we've got 1 minute left here, Kelly. How should we wrap?
Um, I don't know. It's been really great to see you again. Hopefully, people will join us for our workflow roast that we do regularly. And if anybody is coming to Intuit Connect, come find us. I'll be at the Financial Sense booth quite a bit. I will be wandering. I will be at every party. I mean, I showed
Ooh.
Roman in the beginning. I've got I printed it old school because I needed to keep track of the parties. Is what I wanted to do. So I hopefully, but would love to see y'all. Roman.
Yeah, I did not print out my agenda for Connect, but I will be there as well. let's see, Karen asked, where do we find the workflow roast? So you can find workflow roast through the Financial Sense social media channels on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on X. You should see posts there. Kelly and I banter in this similar style with your feedback twice a month. So excited to do that. Hope to see many of you all at Intuit Connect next week as well. Come say hi. We are nice people, I promise. And also stop by the Financial Sense booth. They're going to be giving away cash. So pretty cool
I'm going to
things
be
happening
playing with
there.
money gun.
Yeah, there's
Money
gonna be a
gun.
money gun. So thank you all so much for attending. Have a wonderful rest of your workflow con, and we hope to see you in person. If not soon, find us on LinkedIn to connect. Let's chat. Thanks all.
Thanks. Bye.